drinking it. Hitler's alleged reason for mass medicating water with sodium fluoride was to sterilize humans and force them into submission. Garrett needed to...
1940s. Sources report that Russians and Germans fluoridated water first, and not because of dental health. Instead, they believed it promoted passivity and lowered the number of guards needed in gulags and concentration camps. When the U.S. began putting fluoride into the water supply, citizens across the country raised an uproar. This was back when protest used to mean something. But these protests still didn't stop fluoridation. So what happened? Pro-fluoride businesses and government agencies contacted the legendary father of public relations, Edward Bernays. Bernays was the original spin doctor and a nephew of Sigmund Freud's. He had already used his marketing skills to make bacon a symbol of American breakfast. He also proved his mettle playing with the dark side of advertising, propaganda, when he orchestrated a PR campaign convincing Americans to support an invasion of Guatemala. Fluoride was just another opinion war. Instead of launching the usual ad campaign, Bernays contacted Dental Association.
Paul Jr., successful cattle ranchers of Ferndale, Washington, 7 miles southeast of Birch Bay, close to the Canada-U.S. border. In 1966, Intalco built an aluminum smelter 1.5 miles from their farm. By 1968, the Barseys noticed that many of their animals were becoming debilitated, but they didn't realize until many months later that it was the fluoride emissions from Intalco's smelter which were poisoning their cattle, causing damage to plants, and in some cases killing their trees. In 1970, they commissioned the late Dr. C.C. Gordon, head of the Botany Department, University of Montana, to conduct a study in preparation for a damage suit against Intalco. This mandible on the left was from a cow brought to the Barsey farm after the 2 incisors had formed. These teeth are the only ones not poisoned. The rest are poisoned by fluoride and are worn down to the nerves, making it extremely painful for the animal to eat or to drink cold water. On the right, we have a cow exposed from birth on the Barsey farm, and as you can see, all the teeth are worn down to the nerves. Here the cows are drinking as a dog would drink, trying to warm the water with their tongues to lessen the pain of cold water against exposed nerves. For comparison, the cow drinking on the left has normal teeth and is sucking in water in the normal way. This is a side view of the lower jaw of an animal exposed from birth. Some teeth are completely worn down to the gums. These 8mm films were taken by Paul Barsey Jr. and were used in the Barsey's suit against Intalco. You can see that these animals find it very painful to walk. This is called...
The promoters have always had this faith that you could damage the growing tooth enamel, the enzymes, the G proteins, or however that happens, without damaging any other tissue in the body at the same time. And I think that's very unlikely.
Not only is it an effect on teeth, what's happening in the teeth is very likely happening in the bone as well, because we have the similar kind of structure of hydroxyapatite mineral structure in the bone and the tooth.
Your teeth are sort of a window into the bone, a window into your skeleton. So
if there's this adverse effects going on in the teeth, there are very likely to be adverse effects going on in the bone.
It's a sign of toxicity. It is not just to be dismissed as merely a cosmetic.
Fluoride is a poison, and adding it to our drinking water is an evolving social experiment started 40 years ago. Now one of the world's top fluoride experts has issued a grim warning about what it could be doing to our health, and that of unborn children. Yet as Frank Pengello reports, you'll get a different spin from dentists and health bureaucrats.
We consider that as a poison. Why should a poison be in drinking water? the poison is fluoride. It's there because government health bureaucrats and dentists tell us it's for our common good, for reducing tooth decay, and at levels which won't harm you. That doesn't wash with Professor A.K. Shashila.
They should realize it's the poisonous substance. It doesn't promote health. It is a disease-causing agent, and fluoridation should be stopped as early as possible.
Professor Shashila is one of the world's leading experts on fluoride. Her own extensive research, along with 70 years of data in India, backs up what she's saying, and it's most disturbing.
I would consider a pregnant mother taking fluoride-contaminated products, I'm using the word products, which includes water, toothpaste, black tea, processed food products which has fluoride.
Any liquid?
Anything. Where her urinary fluoride is high, she is going to cause a lot of damage to the fetus, the growing embryo, the infant which is going to be born.
The American Dental Association warns against using fluoridated water to mix baby formula. Not so here.
They don't read, they are not aware, they don't update themselves, they don't do any research. So we are in a serious problem.
Professor Shashila says exposure to fluoride could also be the cause of many ills like neck, shoulder and joint pains, which may be misdiagnosed by doctors. She routinely does urine tests to check fluoride levels in her patients.
Remove the fluoride ingestion starting from toothpaste, black tea, fluoridated water, whatever, and you bring down the urinary fluoride to normal limits, the patient recovers.
Fluoride is also used as a preservative and also lurks in many products we consume. But apart from toothpaste, it's not listed on labels.
So it is coming into one's body through many sources, and you are not aware of it.
The fluoride that goes into our drinking water is toxic waste from the production of fertilizer.
For maybe 100 years, the phosphate fertilizer industry put out two very, very poisonous gases into the environment, hydrogen fluoride and silicon tetrafluoride. Eventually, they were required to capture those, and they did it with a wet spray, water, and that water converts these two very toxic gases into hexafluorosilicic acid. And it's this scrubbing liquor, which is about 25% strong, is put into tanker trucks, driven around the country, and added to our drinking water.
Here's what's in the mix made in Australia. A sickening cocktail of heavy metals like arsenic, barium, beryllium, cadmium, lead, mercury, and on it goes. And in much higher concentrations than is allowed for lead and arsenic.
Why should we make people drink a poisoned water?
Well, it's forced medication for the masses. And there are more than 1,000 doctors and scientists around the world who, like Professor Shashila, condemn what's going on.
The problem with that
health about the issue. Instead, we got a written statement which didn't address our questions directly. It claims Mount Gambier children have 78% more tooth decay than those in Adelaide who drink fluoridated water, and that it's considered safe and used in other developed countries like the USA, UK and Canada. Well, there aren't many more on that list, as anti-fluoride campaigner Professor Paul Connett points out.
Most European countries do not fluoridate. Austria, Belgium, the Netherlands, France, Germany, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Italy, Greece, Portugal. The overwhelming number of countries in the world do not fluoridate, and guess what? Their teeth are just as good, if not better, than ours.
It aggravates dental decay. The tooth gets pitted, perforated, it gets chipped off, it breaks, and also at a much younger age, the people will become edentulous, means they will lose their teeth.
The anti-fluoride movement says while there's ample evidence to support what they're saying, governments still refuse to listen or fund research to study the impact it has on health.
The real culprit here is these bureaucrats who are spinning the information before it gets to the decision makers. And that's what's outrageous. We expect, I think, politicians to spin, but we shouldn't expect civil servants to spin.
A mistake?
Yes, of course.
طرح وارنیش یا فلوراید تراپی در مدارس دامغان آغاز شد.
میکروب دندون رو برطرف میکنه، از بین میبره تا دندونمون سالم بمونه.
در این طرح به منظور پیشگیری از پوسیدگی دندان، کارشناسان بهداشت و درمان ماده فلوراید را بر سطوح دندانهای دانش آموزان مالیده تا باعث استحکام دندانها شود.
سالی 2 بار هر 6 ماه 1 بار این طرح اجرا میشه تو کل مدارس. گروه هدفم بچهای 4 تا 14 سالن.